Chapter 15. How I Met Heinz. The bookstore also sold Herbergsausweise, passes that allowed you to sleep in youth hostels. One day, a young man came in to acquire one of these. In the afternoon, he came in again with his friend who obtained one as well. Every evening from here on, when Reinhild and I shoved our bicycles out of the closed store, we noticed these two fellows hanging around across the street. Then they would follow us with their bicycles. They obviously wanted to get in contact with us. Virtually everybody's mode of transportation was the bicycle. Every evening you were able to tell the time when all the J.M. Voight's workers cycled en masse down Main Street from one side to the other, rushing to get home as fast as possible. No overweight people in those days. Our two followers we called Egon the Zackige, as the one was tall, slim, brown-eyed, and dark curly-haired. He always wore knickerbockers and a leather jacket. The other one was a bit shorter, blondish and ruddy-faced, not exactly handsome. We had no nickname for him. Finally, they made contact with one of us. Wednesdays, I went to the athletic club where I ran, did high jump, broad jump, shot put, and javelin throwing. On the way there, I developed a flat tire. Up behind me came the two fellows, asking if they could fix the problem. How convenient was that? It turned out they actually lived in the apartment blocks right next to the sports grounds. From that time forward, they accompanied us daily to the front of our homes. Off and on, we all would visit the city's best Italian ice cream restaurant, where we learned the Italian names for the different types of ice cream, and so ordered these always in Italian. We became friends with the owners. Since the two guys, Heinz, the Zackige, and the ruddy-faced Dieter, were in a bicycle racing club, they one day participated in a race in the city. Reinhild and I were invited to watch, and so we did. We tried those bikes after the race. They felt quite uncomfortable. Then there was to be another race in Geislingen, a city some 25 kilometers away, over hills and valleys in the huge viaduct. Heinz and Dieter wanted us girls to accompany them and use our bikes as pack horses for their gears. But Reinhild's mom said absolutely not, as Reinhild was only 15 years old, whereas I was 18 and had more freedom to do as I pleased. With warnings of Fenselma not to do anything stupid, I went along to the race, and on the return trip proudly demonstrated that I, a girl, could ride Heinz Racer up the pass while he used my pack horse. Reinhild was beautiful with high cheekbones, full lips and green eyes, and was very well developed. I still had only little apples and muscly legs, as I was involved in a variety of sports. I could understand that Reinhild's mom was a bit worried. Later Heinz told me that when he saw Reinhild in the store, he told Dieter about that beauty working there. That's why they both came in. Oh, I forgot. They also took out a library card to become regular visitors. Heinz also told me that I seemed short and businesslike when he got his youth hostel pass. Well, Reinhild was unable to do any bike rides into the countryside with us. Mom would not allow it. Dieter was very disappointed. However, Dieter would often not use his racing bike and loaned it to me. Heinz and I went racing all over the countryside, comfortable or not. I always rode behind him, using him as a windbreak. Oh, what fun that was! Downhill it was the next best thing to flying. One of the government-sponsored spas for war widows was located near Stuttgart. Mama was granted to stay there for a few weeks. Heinz, Dieter, and I decided that we would visit her with our bicycles. This would be a long trip on which we would have to stay overnight somewhere. Money was always in short supply. So, when evening approached, we found a field of nice haystacks, one of which was our hotel for the night. Another lady at the spa became Mama's friend. She had a 16-year-old daughter, Lisa, whom Dieter immediately pursued. He visited her a few times later, but nothing became of it. Poor Dieter. He struck out again. First Reinhild, now Lisa. One day, our threesome went by train to Stuttgart, where the famous Solitude Formula One car races were held. Heinz was crazy about anything cars. He meanwhile found that I was easy to get along with and was not businesslike at all. We seemed to have the same opinion on almost every subject, and the subjects were many, as we both were avid readers. On the long road down to the train station, he would frequently pull a little on my ear until his arm finally landed on my shoulder, and there it stayed. Dieter was in a foul mood, trotting behind us. The guys had been best friends for years, and now I seemed to get between them. If only Reinhild was 3 years older. Heinz never had a girlfriend before me. As a young man, his opinion of girls was that you were unable to do anything with them, as they were not interested in bicycle racing, technical things, astronomy, etc. Being a bit nerdish. When we got home from my bookstore, we would stand in front of the house and talk and debate. He later told me that he thought I was one girl that was different. Our minds worked the same way. We were soulmates. Under the eve, one dark night, we looked deep into each other's eyes, and we kissed our first kiss. Oh, I was in heaven. He told me a little bit about his life. He came with his family from the Sudetenland, a border area in Czechoslovakia, next to Bavaria, Germany. There is quite a bit of interesting history in his past of Europe, as is practically in all of Europe. Ethnic Germans migrated into the Kingdom of Bohemia, a territory of the Holy Roman Empire in the 11th century, and settled mostly in the border regions later called Sudetenland, after the Sudeten Mountains nearby. Family of the expelled. Switching to the 20th century, Hitler, who threatened to unleash a terrible war on Europe unless the Sudetenland, with its majority of German-speaking citizens, was surrendered to Germany. Britain, France, and Italy agreed to it in exchange for a pledge of peace from Hitler. We all know what havoc Hitler created. After World War II, about 3 million Germans were expelled to Germany and Austria. Among them were Heinz's family. He mentioned that one morning Officials came to the door telling his mother to pack what she can carry and go to the train station. She bound her favorite tablecloth about Heinz's skinny midriff and went with him and his little sister to the train station in a most frightened state. Another official saw Heinz's skinny legs protrude from a thick midriff and unwound the tablecloth to keep it for himself. Others officials whipped over their heads and yelled if anyone had any complaints, while all the people were herded into boxcars. However, the train went west across the border into Bavaria, Germany. There, Heinz's father was waiting for his family in a German soldier's uniform. When the war started, he had to fight for Czechoslovakia. Once Hitler annexed it to Germany, he had to fight for Germany. How bizarre is that? Although we never talked much about the war, he mentioned once that he had been stationed in Norway. Apparently, there were thousands of mosquitoes. When having to relieve yourself, you had to swing a smoking tin can below your behind so those little devils would not eat you alive. He had made friends with nice families who after the war sent parcels with food. Now I wonder, which side were they on? Were they helping the Germans, or was Heinz's father just a nice guy that made friends easily? As I knew him, he was an easy to get along father-in-law. Norway was a neutral country at the outbreak of the war in 1939. In spring of 1940, however, Germany attacked and took over some of Norway's biggest cities of Bergen, Trondheim, Oslo, and Narvik. The resistance only lasted for 62 days. Norway was occupied by Germany from 1940 to 1945. In other words, the end of the war. There was an underground organization, though, that went out of the country, from where Norway was governed. A substantial amount of Norway's citizens had joined the Nazi Party and were mostly stationed on the Eastern Front. All these millions of expelled people from various Eastern countries pouring into Germany had to find a place to live and a place to work. Heinz's family had been brought to a small farm in the highlands near Heidenheim, about 350 kilometers from the Czech border. Heinz's father helped with general farm chores. Heinz tried milking the cows and found it was fun but hard work. He was about 10 at the time. For now, it was mostly a life of just existing to work for food and the roof over the family's head. After a short time, Heinz's father found employment at the WCM, the place where I originally would have designed fabric patterns. The family moved to Heidenheim into attic rooms of an old Tudor-style house on the main street before moving into one of the new apartment buildings that were springing up in clusters in every city, town, and village to house the many newcomers.